Reading the Gospels, Jesus regularly alludes to dying and being raised on the third day. Matthew even records Jesus as saying that like Jonah spent 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the whale, so the Son of Man, Jesus, must spend 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Jesus talks about 3 days so much that the language has worked its way into the Christian consciousness. That's fine, but simple math shows that Jesus in no way spent 72 hours, 3 full days in the tomb if he died Friday afternoon and then rose again early Sunday morning. That's about 40 hours, a day and a half, not 3. So what is going on? Now, some people get around this problem by saying that Jesus didn't die on a Friday and get raised on a Sunday, that there were different days involved. So before we get started on this, let's check to see if it's a possibility that we've just been getting the days wrong for all of these centuries. Well, Luke 23 says that Jesus died on the day of preparation, with the Sabbath just beginning. That would be a Friday evening. And Matthew 37 supplies an even more exact time, saying that it was the 9th hour, or about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when Jesus finally died. So that time is fairly well set. We know it pretty exactly. On the other end of it, Matthew 28 says that the resurrection occurred after the Sabbath on the first day of the week, early in the morning. So this is definitely a Sunday, and probably between 6:30, and 7 o'clock in the morning. So when we add that time up, it would be right around 39 to 40 hours spent in the tomb. Nowhere near the 3 full days that we expect from all of Jesus' statements. So what is going on? Did Jesus get it wrong? Well, no. The problem comes when we assume that the way the ancient Jews thought and spoke about time is the same way that we think and talk about time today. To begin with, we say that the new day starts at midnight, or if we're talking about daylight, then the new day starts at dawn. But for the Jews, a new day started at sunset. And this comes from the beginning of Genesis, when God makes the world, and there was evening, there was morning the first day. There was evening and there was morning the second day, and so on. So for a Jew, Friday would have been 1 day, and then sundown Friday evening, the Sabbath would have started, and then the third day would have begun with Saturday night sundown. Of course, with this way of looking at it, Friday counting as a day seems even more ridiculous to us, because Jesus would have only have been in the tomb for a very short period of time before the sun set and the second day started. That's not at all how we count things today. We've divided up the day into such tiny little pieces that we feel a need to account for each and every one of them. I don't say, for instance, that it's been a day since I've eaten unless it's been a full day. I mean, it being just since dinner the last night doesn't count when it's only been a few hours. We need the full amount to have occurred before it counts. Well, time in Jesus' day was seen very differently, as much more fluid, dynamic, inclusive even. Participating in a day let you count it, even if the full 24 hours wasn't used. We see this in how the phrase "in 3 days" gets used in the Bible. Esther, for instance, asks people to pray for 3 days and then goes to see the king on the third day. Jesus himself, in talking about Herod, says, "I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow. And on the third day, I finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day, I must be on my way." This is a very inclusive way of viewing time, that any amount of the day counted as a day. So even a tiny little bit of Friday to a Jew counted as a day. It seems, in fact, that on the third day or in 3 days was basically shorthand at the time for day after tomorrow. No set number of hours was intended. So it was perfectly understandable in Jesus' day for somebody to say something would happen on the third day and for everyone to understand that that meant sometime day after tomorrow, which is just over half as many hours as the full 3 days that we expect from that phrase today. But the Jewish leaders of the day certainly had no problem understanding Jesus as they recited Jesus, and after 3 days I will rise again. But they only kept the tomb under guard until that third day, not after it. They understood this to mean day after tomorrow as well. The only real problem is Jesus saying that he would be there for 3 days and 3 nights. Because no matter how you count it, Jesus was only there for 2. Now, for some people, this is a major sticking point, but I really don't mind it because Jesus was pointing out that his death would be a sign to an evil generation. He was drawing a connection by similarity between his experience and Jonah's. I don't believe that he was making a specific hourly prediction in that moment. And the bottom line is that the 40 or so hours from Friday evening to Sunday morning were perfectly understandable as 3 days to the original listeners, both Jesus' friends and his enemies. The problem is simply that we don't think about time the same way they did. But all the original hearers would have agreed, 72 hours or not, the prophecies were fulfilled. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great week, a holy Easter. See you next video.